Hey, what's up guys? How you doing? You see that shed right there, aka the dumping station for everything before I went to the Philippines? That is a mess in there. It's piled high. I got to get in and organize it. So that's my day today. Anyways, I thought I would just make a little introduction for this video. So as you know, this channel is without a doubt mainly about positivity, sharing positive information, all the amazing things about the Philippines and just life in general. But sometimes you got to share different sides of things and just to help appreciate and gain perspective on the situation. And in this case, I did receive some comments recently of people that did not share the same experience or overall good time that I had in the Philippines. And that's fair enough. Not everyone's gonna have the same experience or have the same point of view, but it got me thinking, maybe I should make a video that does point out some of these, key things that some people find challenging, or things that are just definitely different than back home, different than what you're used to. So if you haven't traveled much and you are planning to go there, I don't know, I think these are a few things that you should think about. That's all. Definitely not a knock on the Philippines. I am a huge advocate. I'm a huge fan. Can't wait to get back there. But sometimes bad things do happen that you should be aware of before you plan your trip to the Philippines. Bad things kind of like what's in here. Anyways, guys, enjoy the video. We're going to start with dating and relationships. So on my flight home, I was sitting next to a guy, really great guy, super nice. We chatted like most of the way from Cebu to Tokyo. This guy from Poland. He was sharing his story. So he met a Filipina, and it was one of those types that, initially everything seemed perfect, and she was sweet and caring and wanted to get to know him. And I don't know all the details exactly, but at some point along the way when they were, getting to know each other and dating, and I think they were in person, there was the direction of the relationship and the conversation steered towards the hardship and the difficulty and the struggle. And and that's what you got to be careful of. If someone is manipulative to the point where they're starting a relationship and acting in a way that they truly care about you, if you're going there with really like this intention to meet someone like that and you get too excited too soon. So her struggles and need for help was validated from him, and he was doing his best to help her out. And obviously he regrets it, because in the end he was helping her quite a bit, and it became more and more, and in the end she ended up just kind of getting as much as she, I guess, felt she needed, and that was the end of the relationship right there. So the rest of the trip for him was hard to kind of snap out of it, right? Like when something like that happens. So everyone's different in terms of how they approach a relationship, but that kind of thing happens quite a bit. And there are definitely Filipinas that will, not appear to be that way. And they'll get you falling for them only to find out at some point they just leave you, right? So it's unfortunate, it happens. Definitely have to be aware of this for sure, because it can ruin your whole experience without a doubt. Anyways, the next thing that you should be aware of, things don't really go as planned all the time. Things take longer. The conveniences and the quickness of everything happening, like here in the US, like you need something, bam, you got it. There's a place close by, or having Amazon delivering stuff like the very next day. That's just not something that you're gonna experience in the Philippines. So be aware of that, and that's something that a lot of people are okay with, but I think a lot of people might struggle with that, or at least initially have to learn patience and go there with a very open mind. Go there with just knowing that you have to be patient. Things aren't going to happen right away. One thing you'll notice though is like the locals and Filipinos, man, they're chill. They're cool. I remember waiting in line for like 6 hours to get on a ferry during a holiday weekend, and I'm just like, at first I was struggling with it. I'm like, this sucks. And I'm looking around, and man, people are just content. They're hanging out. They're chatting with their family members or friends, and you don't see stress on their face. They're easygoing, and they're able to tolerate challenges that we're not used to in the West. So be aware of stuff like that. All right, so this is one of the things that was mentioned in the comment that this person didn't like, is just the amount of traffic, the amount of pollution, the amount of people, the congestion. Now that's mainly in the cities for sure. In Cebu, there's a ton of foreigners there. A lot of people spend a lot of time there. It's a good hub for sure, for a place where you can kind of get everything you need and hop on a plane or hop on a ferry and go to different islands. But when you're there, really, really bad traffic for sure. If you have to get across town to go to a mall or go to a grocery store, it can be an ordeal. Like just the time it takes, the feeling of just being in traffic and congestion and things like that. Even a smaller city like Dumaguete, like the traffic gets pretty bad in there. It has a bit of a congested feel for sure. You can escape that a little bit easier because it's a smaller city. And a lot of people come, temporarily to the city, and then they get back out and go into the province and go where it's a little bit more peaceful and quiet. But yeah, if you're going to be considering, any of the main areas, the cities, just expect, congestion and traffic and things can be challenging for sure. There's no question about it. All right, so this next one's kind of interesting. It's an important one for sure. Food. So in the city, you do have access to pretty much everything. There's different types of restaurants. So it's a little bit easier in the city. When you're in the province and you're needing to get out and find some food, typical like traditional like Filipino restaurants, they pretty much cook their food. Let's say they'll cook a whole bunch of things in the morning. Oftentimes, like especially in the province, they're lighting a fire, they're heating up and cooking food, and then it goes into like a stainless steel pot, and then it sits on a table or a counter, and it will sit there for, it could be hours. And if you're there right away, you'll get hot food. And if not, if you show up, maybe 2 hours later and whatever's left, that'll be your option for food. It's not like you can just request certain things or heat things up. Sometimes they can. Like there are instances where you can heat food up, but a lot of times, and I experienced it when I was in the province in Bohol, when I was completely brand new, just inquiring if they could heat something up, and kind of looked at me like I was crazy. Like, yeah, I'm not going to go home and light a fire and heat it up for you and then bring it back here. So, that's something that you just have to be aware of when you're in the province. Your food options are going to be very different than in the city, and certainly very different than what you're used to back home. And then when it comes to the actual type of food options that you have, if you're a picky eater and if you're not a big meat eater, you're probably going to have some challenges for sure. But it's, just to kind of say it's not uncommon to have, you could have even something like pancit, or it could be something like a meat and vegetable sort of mixed dish, and it might have regular meat, like what we would consider regular meat, like bits of pork, loin or something like that. But it could also have like liver or other parts of the animal that they've cooked up and put it in there. And yeah, so if that's something that concerns you, you can always ask them what's in it. But that's something to definitely be aware of. And obviously the more open-minded you are and willing to try different things, the easier it will be for you. And I'll just point out too, like they definitely love meat with bone a lot more than any boneless type stuff, because the bone obviously adds a lot more flavor and it preserves some of the juices. So oftentimes mixed in a dish with like, small cuts of meat and vegetables, let's just say for chicken, for example, well, the bone is still in there. So you might have small chunks of chicken with tiny little bits of bone, mixed in with that chicken. So it's really worth noting, Filipinos are just used to that. So if they have, meat in their mouth, they're going to be able to manipulate it in their mouth and kind of separate the bone and spit it out or whatever. But if you're not aware and you just bite down on whatever meat is in that dish because you're expecting it to be boneless, well, you might run into a bit of an issue. So just be aware that it's the way that food is, prepared and delivered. It's different. All right, getting close to the end here on my little list that I have. So another thing that you might have an issue with is don't expect internet to be as reliable and as fast as it is here in the West or US or wherever you live. You can find high-speed internet, but it's not all the time and it's not everywhere. There's times where even in the city, like I stayed in a ton of Airbnbs, I'd stay at one and it would have good internet, and then the next two would have terrible internet, and it was just inconsistent. Or sometimes it would be good and then it would go out for a little bit. Some areas of the Philippines, you get brownouts frequently. You just have to really go with the flow when it comes to a lot of things, but internet is included in that. So, obviously I do a lot of stuff online with YouTube, and you just have to learn to navigate it and be patient. And man, it can be a challenge though, for sure. So keep that in mind, be aware of it, and you'll be all right. Another thing to be aware of that I know is an issue for some people is healthcare. So there's actually really good healthcare options in the cities like Manila and Cebu. There's tons of hospitals, there's tons of clinics. But if you're out in the province, and if you have any kind of health concerns whatsoever, there's definitely many parts of the Philippines where you're just not going to have quick access to certain types of healthcare, maybe some basic clinic type stuff. And, there's little dentists and stuff like that out in these small towns. But if you need any routine thing, or if you're concerned about your health whatsoever, you know, you're going to want to stay close to the city, or just be aware of that. Like, healthcare changes a lot as you leave the city and go out into the province, for sure. All right, last thing that I have on my list, which can be a pro and a con. I mean, if you're coming from Detroit and you're in the dead of winter, you're hating life. And then, you know, in the Philippines, the weather's, you know, warm and nice. Obviously, could be a pro for you. But, you know, all in all, just be aware that the weather in the Philippines can be extreme at times. It can be very hot, it can be humid. There's obviously a typhoon season that lasts a few months. There's a rainy season that lasts a few months where it, you know, rains pretty consistently at times of the day. There's a nice time of year too that's considered the summertime, where it doesn't rain much and it's just good, pleasant weather. I think it's more like end of January, February, March, April, May. Philippines can also be known for having a lot of natural disasters. I mentioned typhoons, but landslides and earthquakes, and it definitely sits in a part of the world where more of that stuff can happen. But for me, I don't always let that really get in the way of going to a place. I mean, even in the US, I live in Florida, we have hurricanes. You live in the Midwest and you have tornadoes, and, you know, you get earthquakes on the West Coast. So, you know, that's not something that is unique to the Philippines, but it's worth mentioning that they do have a wide range of natural disasters that tend to hit the Philippines, and I think typhoons are pretty common there. But certain islands do get it worse than other islands. Like Cebu, from what I understand, generally speaking, is let off the hook more often than like Leyte and other parts of the Philippines. So anyways, these are just things to consider, guys. You know, as you know, I'm a huge advocate of the Philippines. I plan on getting back there as soon as I can. But there are some challenges, and then of course with these comments coming in with some of these videos that I'm making, and people sharing their side where they really didn't like their experience in the Philippines, I just felt it was worth mentioning. You know, you are going to encounter some stuff. It's not perfect, and yeah, I just wanted to be realistic with my videos and balance things out. So that's all. I'll be making more soon, and I'm probably going to bounce right back to some things that I'm really excited about, and some positives, and I'm going to do some videos highlighting like some of the favorite places that I've been to, and I'm gonna do a bunch of stuff like that. That's gonna be the majority of my channel for sure, but stuff like this is important. Guys, thanks for watching, appreciate it, and we'll see you in the next one.